Welcome to Muck U, Episode 2 with Denver Riggleman, former member of Congress from Virginia, and author of Breach, available on Amazon.com as well as Audible. Welcome to the show, Denver.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, buddy, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun today.
We sure are, and my co-host, Colonel Mo Davis, is here as well from Asheville today. Welcome, Mo.
Hey, it's good to be here.
All right, well, let's get right into it. So, known for former member of Congress, Virginia, but you're also known as Mr. Bigfoot and Mr. Bourbon. So let's talk about the important things first. Let's talk about the bourbon. How did you guys get into that?
Well, it's funny, a lot of people know me, either from Congress or the January 6th committee, but pretty well known. I had a lot of good friends because I was former Air Force. I had actually companies in counterterrorism analysis and data, really in data parsing, right? Aggregation and using data for targeting. So we got into distilling because in 2012, I sold my first company, which was called Analyst Warehouse. And I was able to use those receipts, right, to stake my wife. And I had asked her, I'm like, hey, you've been following me around since we were 19 years old. We got married pretty young, David. So I said, you've been following me around. What do you want to do? And we were in Scotland on vacation, and she had fallen in love with this 80-year-old plus distiller at Ben Nevis Distillery in Fort William, Scotland. And they had gone around for hours, and she came up with I want to make liquor. And so we started from scratch. We didn't know anything. So we sent her to apprentice. We got consultants. We built the building ourselves. We have 50 acres in Afton, Virginia on the Rockfish River. She did it all. And now she's the CEO. And so it took us about 1 year, 4 months, and 2 weeks, David, to actually build a distillery and to get open. And now we've been in business for over 10 years. So it really was a result of what I did in counterterrorism and data analytics.
It always ends up tying together, doesn't it?
Well, my whole life before Congress was really hunting terrorists and making whiskey. That was pretty much it, And so, so now I have my own AI company too. So now, Mr. Bourbon, Mr. Bigfoot, Mr. AI, and we're doing such incredible things there. But really, it's what happened on January 6th. It really sparked me to start my third tech company. Actually, David, was because of all of that.
All right, but let's go back to the bourbon. Sorry, John. What's the name of the brand, and how can folks taste it?
So Silverback Distillery. We have distilleries in Virginia, the Poconos. We sell almost all of our product out of our distilleries and do pretty well. But we are in Washington, D.C. at the Pond Circle at Beach Street Wines. We also have distribution in Louisiana, Kentucky, and slightly in Pennsylvania. So that's it, right? You get to our distilleries. You can even go online. If you're in one of the states we can ship to. So we're all over, but we don't make quite enough because we sell out so quickly, which is sometimes a bad problem to have, not a good one. But we do make some incredible spirits, but mostly go online at sbdistillery.com, or you can go to our distilleries or buy them in select stores in Kentucky, Louisiana, and Washington, D.C.
I know you had a little bit of a battle with government in Virginia over that distillery. Tell us a little bit about that, because I think it says a lot about your personality and your tenacity.
Well, the worst place to start a distillery in the country is Virginia at ABC. And there's a lot of lobbying and hate distilleries. And most of those are people who sell alcohol, like beer manufacturers, beer wholesalers, but also the wine distributors. So not only did I go to war with them for years and still at war for them because of their rent-seeking behavior and their lobby, but also Dominion tried to run a pipeline across my actual property while I was fighting the individuals, not only ABC, but the lobbying firms. And why I got into politics, until I was 47 or 48, was because of me fighting the regulatory burden, the lobbyists, right? Individuals, eminent domain. I just felt like we were under siege once we built that distillery. And they wanted to run the actual pipeline right across our water lines, right where our barrel house was. It was incredible, David, that I sort of just got dropped right into literally land, lobbying, and regulatory wars, which really opened my eyes to how much I didn't know about not only regulatory structures, but how you could be absolutely overwhelmed by lobbying and special interests. And, for me, as a former CEO at that time, I was a senior consultant at the Pentagon for electronic warfare and countermeasures. Everything I'd done in my life serving my country, I thought it was incredibly unfair. And I said, if this can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. And that's really why I got interested in politics, was because of the wars that I've had. We called it the Whiskey Rebellion, but it was the wars that I had in all of those sectors simultaneously over 3 to 4 years that finally sparked me to get into politics.
I know that Virginia is any better or worse than North Carolina as far as that goes. We just had the last county in North Carolina that was a dry county I think it was 2 years ago, finally now allows alcohol. But, when I was growing up, all of Western North Carolina were dry counties. And every time it came up for a vote, it was the Baptists and the bootleggers got together to keep it out. So it's really ironic. I live in Asheville, which is the beer capital of America. Which, if you go back a few decades, it would have seemed unimaginable that because the world was supposed to spin off its axis if you had alcohol in Western North Carolina, but we're the beer capital now.
Well, when we go up and try to lobby for better laws for distillers, like for instance, we can only serve 3 ounces per day to any customer. We pay a 34% bottle tax, the highest tax in the country out of your own distillery. It's insane, right? But when we went up there, we got actually the lobbying groups for the, Baptist, things like that. And when we were at the planning commission meetings, Mo, they called my wife and I murderers if we were going to sell liquor. So we definitely have that sort of Bible Belt mentality. You know what else? Is that blue states are so much easier to do business than red states when it comes to alcohol. Their laws are better, their structures are better, their taxes are much lower. It is 10 times cheaper for me to sell alcohol out of a distillery in California than it is in Virginia.
Yeah. It's ironic though. Probably, the most famous distillery has got to be Jack Daniel's, which is in a dry county. I don't know if when you're in the Air Force, I don't know if you ever went to, was it Tullahoma Air Station or whatever it was there?
I never went there. No, not when I was in the Air Force and did not go there, Mo.
Yeah, but it was right next to where the distillery was, and you could go there. Under the law, they could give it away. So you could go there, you could sample it, but you couldn't buy it.
So Denver, the second part of my question, then I'll let Mo and you maybe talk a little bit about the Air Force experiences you both had. But you also, in one of your campaigns, got mired in the Bigfoot controversy. Tell us about that, and then make sure everybody knows all about the book that you wrote.
In my first campaign in 2018, I ran against Olivia Wilde's mom, David. Her name was Leslie Coburn. And I had just done the only, I believe, op-ed against white supremacy that a Republican had written, because Charlottesville is in my district. You know what happened in 2017 with the Unite the Right rally.
Yeah.
So I wrote an op-ed against white supremacy, and that, that Republicans need to reject anything to do with, white supremacy, white nationalism, Christian nationalism, sort of this Western chauvinism look at things. The day after, my opponent tweeted that I was a Nazi-loving Bigfoot erotica enthusiast, or devotee. Based on my book, Bigfoot, It's Complicated. And my first book, my second book, The Breach, was a New York Times bestseller. I sold a lot of this as a self-published book. When you track Al-Qaeda, ISIS, look at radicalization, look at belief systems, and even when you're looking at, way far right, Christian evangelicalism, or you're looking at even, let's talk about the Jewish religion, right, and some of the things that happen there when they go way down the line. When you get very, very, I would say, fundamentalist in your religious beliefs, right, it can cause you to do awful things. But I wanted to do a book where it wasn't exactly calling out, how that happens, but how could I actually present it in a way that was not threatening? So I used Bigfoot believer. And there is 4 different Bigfoot believer types. And in Bigfoot, It's Complicated, it's how their lives have been transformed by these insane belief systems. Well, they saw the title of the book and the fact that on Instagram on my birthday, and Mo knows this is true, a military buddy of mine drew a picture of me with my head on a Bigfoot body with a big blacked out phallus. And I put it on my Instagram as a joke because it was my birthday. They used that plus the book to say I was into Bigfoot porn. And so, it was actually disinformation. It was a lie. She knew that was wrong. And I know that from her campaign now, and from the people who worked for it. She just lied about it because she was losing. And, it really did strike me, even as somebody who'd been in disinformation, that the major papers carried the story and they were sly about it. They're like, is he into Bigfoot erotica? And then at the end of the interview, they're like, well, no, and there was no proof of it. And that really showed me also the complicity of the media and clickbait. And really some of the problems we see today is the media's inability to actually live up to their responsibility. So, I'm in a weird place, right? Is that as somebody who, knows disinformation so well, I was able to react to that disinformation in a way that was able to diffuse it for the most part. But people still have this weird belief that somehow I'm a Bigfoot pornography enthusiast and like to run through the woods covered in peanut butter and bacon, So that's really, where it came from was a really awful human being that was running against me in a congressional race. And, and then, but she got her just desserts. I beat her, but now I beat her, David and Mo. But she was also accused of kink shaming me by the left, which was pretty interesting that her own people turned on her, because she shouldn't be kink shaming somebody just because, they might be a Bigfoot furry or something. So, but yeah, so it was a nutty time to see how politics can be that dirty. but also that most politicians lie, and that's something I never wanted to do. And she was just a liar. And
Yeah, I bet it probably helped your campaign, didn't it? That your name
it gave me national recognition. I got intelligence from her for people that so they were begging her not to do it. That would put me on the map, and also she was wrong. And both of those happened, right? People started laughing about it, like this is ludicrous because it's so stupid, and it made her look like an idiot. So even though the first week was awful for me, and I had death threats, and people invited me to do weird things with them, David. So my wife and I are like, nah, we're not into furries, So, but yeah, it was a really weird time for us to go through that. And I think a real learning lesson for me on politics and the evil that's sometimes involved with the lying. But on the flip side, it did work out for me.
That's right. That's right. You got elected. So what are you, Mo?
Yeah, Denver, I'm curious with your background. We've got the confirmation hearings underway right now. What you're thinking is, particularly with Pete Hegseth, for DOD and Ratcliffe for the CIA.
Well, I think the best pick should be really sad, Mo, is Ratcliffe. So
yeah,
we should cry about that because I know John. I worked with John, and he certainly doesn't have the background or even the ability, I think, to run that organization with the type of efficiency or efficacy. As far as Pete Hegseth, I just think he's a slug. Maybe one of the worst picks we could ever have for SecDef. Maybe the worst pick. I would say ever identified. And just watching him yesterday, the smirks we have a Fox News personality with really no other talent being picked just because of loyalty. And I think what scares me even more than Hegseth is Tulsi Gabbard for DNI right now. And so really maybe the least competent, least effective picks in the history of the United States, all because of loyalty. And what scares me just isn't Trump, but it's that those people actually could have power and they're so ridiculous. But they're also, if you look at Hegseth, he really leans towards that Christian nationalism, slant. Tulsi Gabbard was a member of a cult. You look at John Ratcliffe, he's just adult. So I think that's what you have, right? Is you have the incompetents, the adults, the slugs, right, and the immoral, right, that have been chosen. If you look at what happened in that case, so I think that's the issue that we have right now, Mo.
Yeah. For a lot of years, I was a big advocate when I talked to young folks to consider a career in the military, but I'm not doing that now. To me, it's alarming having a commander-in-chief and a potential SecDef who can't meet the minimum standards we demand of an 18-year-old that walks into a recruiting session.
And, listen, Colonel Davis, I got out, I was a Mustang, I got out as a captain in NSA Special Projects, I was enlisted in the commission. When I look at what's happening right now, I wonder what happens to our military morale, but also to the belief systems in the military. We already have a radicalization issue in some portions of the military. So, Mo, my biggest fear is what happens if you have a sexual abuser who's a commander-in-chief and maybe a sexual deviant who's SecDef. And I think I just don't even know. I feel like a stranger in my own country sometimes. So you served and has taken the oath as you have, sir. So, it gives me pause.
Mo ran against a guy here in North Carolina, Madison Cawthorn. I think you guys, what was your interaction with that knucklehead?
Really, I was on the way out when he was on the way in. So I didn't see Madison and Marjorie Taylor Greene and things like that, but I just looked at him because I knew their belief systems already. And, I didn't know if their stupidity was an airborne virus. So I didn't get from lunch. But, Madison is so unserious and so pathetic of a human being, based even on his background and the videos that he did too, which you guys might be aware of. But, the thing that's, if I may, argue with myself, when he was talking about the sex parties, orgies and stuff like that in the GOP, not exactly true. But then when you look at somebody like a Matt Gaetz, you start to wonder, right? But I also knew some of our individuals that were really into some bizarre stuff, even, having pictures of their conquests, right? That sometimes they bring to the House floor. So I was not real enthralled, David, with that House membership, especially on the right. I was a Republican. And the Democrats seem to be much more together as far as not maybe sharing pornography, which was maybe should be your baseline of being a member of Congress. You shouldn't do that. I think Madison Cawthorn really was sort of the guiding light of depravity, right, in the GOP while he was in. So there you go. That's what I think about him.
Yeah.
It's funny because you've got like Senator Kennedy from Louisiana, Harvard-educated guy who kind of plays the country bumpkin role. Plays dumb when he's really not. But with Cawthorn, he wasn't playing. It was dumb to the bone. But
oh my gosh, yeah. What is it? Pretty skin deep, but ugly's all the way to the bone, Mo.
Yeah,
right. Well, that's pretty much Madison.
Well, it's amazing. I don't know any other important decision a person would make, whether it's choosing a doctor or a pilot or an electrician, where you'd want the dumbest, least qualified person you could get to do the job. But that seems to be the standard in politics. It's really a shame. I argued, when I was running, when I first started, I would talk about people voting against their interests, and all the consultants said, "Oh, you got to stop saying that. You're suggesting that people are stupid." And it's like, oh, shit, they are. Because
Well, I don't think you were suggesting, Mo.
that's enough.
Yeah, God forbid somebody tell them the truth once in a while.
Amen to that. Amen to that, Mo. And I think again, when you talk about lowering the standards, look at our commander in chief, right? I mean, I think ignorance is easily weaponized, and it's easily mined also for money. I mean, this is the new grifter politician culture that sort of nobody wants to really attack. Listen, crazy is not party specific, right? I always say that, Mo and David, that, but the far right's in a hold my beer moment. But I don't think the two-party system can hold up to social media and the disinformation out there. And I think we need a new way. And we need something to somehow moderate the fringes and the lunatics. But, for the far right, for people like the Cawthorns, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, and the Lauren Boeberts and the Matt Gaetzes, I just don't know how you fix stupid, but people enjoy stupid. And they flock to it based on their belief systems or the fact that they just vote based on the letter behind their name.
I don't know if you saw it this week. A day or two ago, there was a piece in the New York Times talking about proportional representation rather than this two-party. Because, the two-party system has a way of pushing people to the extremes. And probably North Carolina is a good example. If you look at this, the November election, on the House side, Republicans got 52% of the votes in North Carolina, but they got 72% of the seats in Congress. So, there's 48% of the North Carolina population that didn't vote for the Republicans, were largely left unrepresented. So this article was suggesting proportional representation that would have, a broader than just the two-party system that we've got now.
I just don't know how we get rid of the gerrymandering of districts unless that proportional system takes into account, where there's population centers. And it's, just like here in Virginia, right? My district looked like a dragon riding a scooter. It was the most gerrymandered district, but my district was bigger than New Jersey. It was over 10,000 square miles. So I wonder, how we do that, because you're exactly right. Gerrymandering, what is it? It's like between 40 and maybe in another year, 80 of the districts actually determine the election, right, Mo? It's only
right.
The swing districts are so small now in comparison to the 435 congressional districts that what do we do? Like, I don't even know how to fix this awful, intransigent two-party gerrymandering system that's completely corrupt. And it's not just corrupt like quid pro quo or transactional. I think the corruption is really just the rot that the party has accrued over decades and generations. And I think that rot needs to be scraped out somehow. And again, I think it goes back to, it just has to be people who want to, breach the wall, right? They want to be the first over to have truly independent runs where people don't caucus with either party. How does that even happen, right? How do you even make that happen? And it's something I'd love to figure out. I'll tell you that.
Well, I think, the public is, expressed their displeasure with the two-party system. I mean, here in North Carolina, the largest voting bloc, for voter registration is unaffiliated. There are almost 3 million North Carolinians are registered is unaffiliated, which is over 500,000 more than either the Democrats or the Republicans have. So, it's pretty clear that folks are not happy with the two-party system.
I know they're not. And, when I asked you and David, it's a real question, as I know David's probably going to ask me something about another type of run for me, not congressional. I would never do that again. I'd rather set myself on fire. I wonder, if people say they want it, Mo, and Dave, if they're actually going to fund it, because, money drives politics, sadly, and can you get the fundraising, get the support, right, to go forward on that?
Well, that's a beautiful segue into my question. There's a little bit of scuttlebutt out there that you're looking at elected office again. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking about?
Well, like I said before, even with even a statewide office, I was like, there's no way that I would run again. But after Trump won, see, my wife and I sort of made her a promise, like after the insanity I went through. As you guys know, I was kicked out of the Republican Party pretty much for officiating a same-sex wedding, and then I voted to legalize marijuana. Dear Lord, I completely became the total antichrist, as they call me. But and also I just refused to kowtow to the committees and things like that. And then to have a convention in a church where they brought in Confederate flags against me. And it was pretty insane, right? To have that kind of the League of the South and racist. And by the way, it's good to have those kind of enemies, right? So it really defines who you are. But I lost in a church with only 2,500 people because I would probably win a primary. So it was pretty bitter, and it really affected me mentally, physically. And my wife's like, it's not worth it. After Trump won, the night after Trump won, and this is just as true as can be. She's like, honey, and she uses military language, Mo. So I want to let you know that, David.
Yep.
She goes, you're the only MFer I know that tells the truth, and you need to get back into this because Trump came out. Man, he's just an awful kind of human being. So, I called somebody like, Denver, you should run for governor. I really can't because of my new company and my fiduciary responsibilities. Maybe I can, but I would cause definitely consternation with my investors and my advisory board. A lieutenant governor is a part-time position in Virginia, and it's statewide. And wouldn't give people the permission structure to vote for somebody outside of governor because it's two different races in Virginia. The cool thing, and Mo, David, about Virginia is the governor and lieutenant governor do not run on a combined ticket. They run separately. And you can have a Republican governor and a Democratic lieutenant governor. Virginia is very unique. It's one term only. You can do more than one term, but it can't be consecutive. So what would it be like to run statewide as a true independent? So I have an exploratory committee, David. I have people on board. I have people saying they want to fund this. We think we have to raise the lieutenant governor level between $10 and $15 million. We have people who say they think they can get the people to do that. But the thing is, I do run a very robust AI company. I have multiple distilleries. I have an incredible amount of responsibilities. Do I have the energy or even the wherewithal, right, to do this? But I'm pissed off, and I am so done with what's going on in this country that what if you did a true run as an independent where you refuse to caucus? And I want to see if it can work. And plus, I have pretty good name ID, guys. People know me. I am a best-selling author. I was on the January 6th committee, Congressman. I've done media for the past 3 years. More people know me now when I was some knuckle-dragging backbencher. So what if I gave it a roll? And I'm better. I'm more mature. I don't kowtow, but I'm not as mad or confrontational as I was 5-6 years ago. I'm actually angrier, but I don't show it. And I think I've learned a lot, and I've grown up in politics since I came into it so young. So new at 47. I've only been in 6 to 7 years, and only probably 5 years of that I even cared about it. So that's where I'm at. Do I even have the guts to do it again? I think I do. Do I have the finances? Maybe. Do I have the time? Not sure. Are people going to be angry in my company? Maybe. And what does it really look like when people say they support you? Mo, this. People are like, run, 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 and then they forget to give you money or they won't take your calls. So, that's where I'm at on that right now, David.
I commend you and your wife because it just seems like right now a lot of people are just giving up. They're just so disillusioned and disappointed that they're just, giving up. So we need people, doing like you're doing and thinking about not giving up and getting out there and running and trying to make things better.
So what are the mechanics, Denver? When do you have to make a decision? And, what kind of money you think you can raise?
I got to make a real decision in about 2 to 3 months because Virginia has off-year elections. The election is November 25, David. So I got to make that decision fairly soon. I'd say within the next 8 weeks. And then I have to get signatures, right? That may get very difficult for an independent to run. I know that's surprising both of you. So they do make that very difficult, but I can do that too. And I do think I can raise initially a few million just to see where we're at with digital. Plus with my company, I can do things in AI and replicating myself that camera can't do. I can actually put out 50 different AI Denvers with different messaging simultaneously at lower cost. So I'm wondering, can I also run the first pure technology campaign, the first real independent campaign in Virginia for who knows how long, but also a campaign where I can actually spread myself out, build my own infrastructure using technology. We're trying to do all that, David and Mo. So it's going to be interesting.
Oh man, you can do it. Come on. You started you didn't know anything about brewery and you got that rolling. You didn't know anything about Congress and you got into there. You didn't know anything about being married. You've got a very successful marriage. I am 100% behind you, my friend. I would be up there gathering signatures for you this weekend if you were in the race. So let's do it, Denver. Let's make an announcement right now. You're in, right?
I have to wait for my exploratory committee, David. I have to.
That what they know
right now without my wife knowing first. I know in my congressional race on Facebook without telling her.
Oh, Jason. All right, so maybe you're not as good at that as I thought you were.
No, and you got to remember too, I got some Bigfoot stuff because I pranked my wife on our 15th year anniversary. Instead of taking her to Hawaii, I took her on a Bigfoot expedition. I thought it'd be funny. It was not. So, I'm telling you, I've made a lot of mistakes, David, in my life. And yes, I've been successful in marriage, but that's because my wife doesn't hate me yet. So there you go. So
Nah, she's never going to hate you. Come on.
Well,
yeah,
listen,
listen. She sort of wants me to do it. I do have people that I have to make sure with my fiduciary responsibilities. There's an integrity thing there, but on the other hand, and I have some pretty good policy ideas. But I want to ask you too this. Everybody says we have to change it. I think the main message is everybody here in this audience is here because you want to change things. Well, now here's your chance. You don't have to, right? You now you got to put your money where your mouth is and your vote where your mouth is. If you want change and you want somebody who's the president of the Senate, who's an independent that does a tie-breaking vote on votes, that cares about Virginia more than whether he has an R or D behind his name, it's your chance. That's it. That's really the baseline message, guys. I can go into policy and do all kinds of stuff. But do you want the same old, same old? And if you do, fine. If you don't, here I am. That's it.
Yeah, no, that's a winning message as far as I'm concerned. So who would be your competition on the Democrat and Republican?
Republican side, there's a couple of people. Pat Harity out of the Fairfax area, actually a good guy. John Reed, who's a radio personality in Richmond. Those are the only two Republicans I know about. Democratic side, there's LeVar Stoney. He's the mayor of Richmond. And then you have four others that I've never heard of. So, the one thing that I have gotten calls from even Washington, D.C., think tanks and political consultant types is that this might be the weakest field for lieutenant governor they've seen in a long time. And you guys got to admit, if I come on as a former J6 advisor, former congressman, like a lieutenant governor on an off-year election, where the only elections are New Jersey and Virginia, it would be sort of a national story if I'm running. And I would probably piss off a lot of the Democrats and Republicans. So that's the other thing I'm beginning is like, you're going to put Winsome Sears in, who's probably the likely Republican nominee, or you're going to put in Abigail Spanberger if you run. So I'm getting both sides telling me I'm going to sway the election. And I'm like, good, damn right. Well, how about this? How about you just vote for me and let me see how I do as lieutenant governor and we'll see what happens in the future. And if you don't, again, no skin on my back because I just go back to my distillery and sit in the speakeasy and run an AI company. So, I don't make money on this. This isn't my career.
Right, but Spanberger as governor and you as lieutenant governor would not be too bad a combination, both intelligence officers.
Well, Abby and I are friends too, David. So we're actually close friends. And I was the only Republican to endorse a Democrat during the congressional races on camera when I endorsed Abby in the 7th District of Virginia. So there you have it.
Denver, I'm curious, people like yourself and, Joe Walsh and, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger and even Barbara Comstock. She represented the district when I lived in Northern Virginia, and I wasn't a big fan of hers. But this last election, I was really proud of her taking a stand. Where do you folks go? And clearly the Republican Party is, is no longer a home for you, and I can't see you guys being Democrats. So what happens to those what used to be sensible Republicans?
Well, we had, even talking to Barbara, Barbara and I are pretty close. And by the way, Adam Kinzinger is on my advisory board for my company. He's one of the ones who's like, Den, don't do it, So I think I'm doing this because I need to find something where I do have a place to go. And, I started this company because of January 6th. I started because I saw the actual gaps in technology you need to do these massive investigations into disinformation and how open source intelligence is actually still so limited, especially when it comes to telephones and text messaging. So I thought, I'll start a company that defends democratic institutions using technology. That is really the vision of why I started this company. But, you also have to be out there. And I'm on media all the time. So what if we do have a third way and it's actually almost organic instead of trying to be, these money people who actually do this sometimes to make money, like No Label or Forward Party, right? All these other parties, there's a big money structure for them and they're structured like the major parties and how they collect monies. But if you're organic, or like, you know what? You can give me all the money you guys want, but I'm running as Denver Riggleman. Denver frickin' Riggleman. And if you don't like it, I don't care. But what if you could actually craft a policy that's not just running up the middle, but actually uses facts and data, as part of what your baseline policy is. And Mo, that's the thing I wonder. I don't know if it's possible in this world anymore with the tribalism and social media and the ability to, find your own echo chamber and swim in it. I don't know, but I think it's got to be where we caucus with the people that defend democracy, But there's got to be another way, where the parties are controlling every aspect of the election systems in every state and commonwealth. So that's where I'm at.
Well, it's certainly the same here in North Carolina. It's really hard, to be an independent. They make it difficult to get on the ballot. As I mentioned, the biggest voting bloc in North Carolina is unaffiliated. But to serve on a state or county board of elections, you've got to be a member of one of the two parties. So, institutionally, I know the Democrats and Republicans hate each other, but they know the game, and they're happy, fighting against each other and not having another avenue to compete with.
Somebody's got to drop a turd in their punch bowl. And, that's really what it comes down to. There needs to be a disrupt. And, and everyone's like, well, what if you lose? What if I get 20% of the vote? That is going to put pucker factor all over the two-party system in Virginia. Right, Mo? So I need to scare people. I need to get in the bar fight, and I need to call out both sides, even if it's Abby, David, right? Like if they're saying stupid stuff or they're going right down the line of special interest, what if somebody actually said, I love you, you're a great person, but you're wrong. And oh shit, and not to attack as just to attack, right? Not to make up stuff like her opponents did against Abby or make up stuff against Winsome. And listen, I'm no fan of the far right. You guys know where I stand, right? But wouldn't it be interesting to have somebody who's just like, hey, I'm neither. Like literally neither. I'm just an American guy or a gal, whoever wants to run that way. And so I'm just here to freaking break things, right? In a good way. Because this two-party system controls everything. And it's time to have somebody outside of that two-party system that has power. And I think where people are like, is this really a thing?
I think you're on to something there, Denver. I think there's a lot of similarities between North Carolina and Virginia.
Huge. And George Washington hated political parties, right, guys? And he was also a distiller. So I'm the next George Washington. I'm kidding.
Look careful.
There's your bumper sticker right there.
That's such a joke. Chubby George Washington. Don't exotic cancer. Distiller and unaffiliated. So there you go.
Well, listen, my friend, my vote counts for nothing. And sometimes I think I probably take votes away from people if I endorse them. But man, I am 100% behind you on this. I think you're the right guy to do it because you're moderate in your thinking, you're moderate in your politics, you're moderate in the way you live your life, and you're likable. You're a likable person, and I don't say that to puff you up, but that matters. I mean, the moment you and I connected about 6 months ago, I felt like we went to high school together, and I think that matters. Let's move on to our final topic here, and then let you get back to AI world. J6. So obviously, God bless you for everything you did on that committee, and I think that was a labor of love and probably pretty frustrating for you at the same time. But tell us a little bit about how that came about, and give us at least one story that maybe isn't in the book that we haven't heard before.
My God, David, what a dare. So J6 committee came along, just people knew my background. Even though I was on the financial services committee, I was actually, as a freshman, the vice chair of the subcommittee for national security. Financial services has a huge overview, like OFAC, Department of Treasury Intelligence, and they knew my background in China and Russia threat systems. And so I was really fortunate that even in Congress, people recognize my background in technology and foreign policy, but also in really defense in total, not only the DoD, but the intelligence. So that's why I thought I'd be in for a while. But again, talent and intelligence is actually sometimes mutually exclusive from winning an election. January 6th happens. I get a call from Liz Cheney the night of January 6th, and she calls me and she says, Denver, help us with the second impeachment. And I did. We found 7 white nationalist groups with our data guys that I knew that were involved. And that report was in Liz Cheney's hand by January 8th. Pretty crazy. And she remembered that. And she remembered what I could do in my Congress for this kind of stuff. And she called me to be on the January 6th committee once, it was at HR 503. Okay. I will tell you, I am waking up every morning, David, hoping that the January 6th committee wasn't just a big fart in the wind. And right now it looks that way. I also know that when you talk about what happened on the January 6th committee, we definitely couldn't follow all the threads because of resourcing, which was really Congress's fault. But the thing that I need people to know is Congress is not situated to investigate massive data-based crimes in any way. And that's something that we found out pretty quickly. And then things dropped through the cracks. Like there should have been much more on Roger Stone on the phone records, on the telephone call that went to a writer from the White House switchboard, which was underreported and stalked at by so many reporters because they didn't understand metadata. and how awful it was that the White House had so much contact with rally goers, with Oath Keepers. The Oath Keeper, Kelly Sorrell, was texting Andrew Giuliani before January 6th, and he worked for Trump directly. So now we have Oath Keepers with direct line to White House staff. This is so big. It's so overwhelmingly awful and bizarre. Just shows the lack of judgment and the unethical, immoral, and possibly illegal activity of the Trump administration during January 6th. And yet the press wants to concentrate on, say, Cassidy Hutchinson and Trump's state of mind, which is maybe one of the most unimportant things in retrospect. It got a lot of coverage, and thank God she was so brave. But that should have led into, well, if Trump had this glib attitude and wanted it to happen, who are the people executing it? Where are the Roger Stones, the Mike Flynn, and the Alex Joneses, and the Patrick Burns, and the Mike Lindells, and the Sidney Powells, right? And the Steve Bannons. And I think we just lost so much in translation, and especially, the text messages from Meadows, which our team found, and the Jenny Thomas text messages. And I think we lost an incredible opportunity to subpoena Jenny and Clarence. The interview she had at the end wasn't even under oath. So I think there was a political fear to go all in at the congressional level. And it's just some of the things with all the courage that the Casaseros and the people that got up there and Ruby and I just, all the people that were so brave, I think it really didn't mean a hill of beans. And actually maybe because we couldn't message it correctly and couldn't identify all those in the time that we had, all the people responsible, I think we're in a really bad spot right now, and to where nobody's going to trust what a committee or commission says at the congressional level. And plus with the massive data issues we have and the disinformation, I just don't know, right, if Congress is suited to do that. And I think that's really my soapbox, is that Congress is doing the right thing and doing an incredible job with what they add, but you need more actual counterterrorism analysts and data analysts that Congress were to hire if they're going to do this effectively. I think that's the lesson learned. Out of all the magic and goodness and heroism of the January 6th committee, I think we missed the boat of the command and control architecture and maybe the people that were really behind it.
You look at Trump and everybody poo-poos and says he's an idiot. But if he's an idiot, how did he pull off this cover-up? I mean,
he's not an idiot.
He's not. He has figured out how to get people to do the dirty work for him in a way that is diabolical. But at the same time, he won again. Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, everybody thinks she's a dingbat. She is in some ways, but she's also extremely effective at getting her message out and winning.
Listen, Mo said something earlier about suggesting this voter you're stupid. Listen, I think with Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, all that, I think they actually are literally morons. But I think they've learned how to weaponize stupidity in a way because they have no moral compass. They're almost sociopathic morons where they know that it's stupid sells. And I think that's where we're at right now is that, listen, if Trump is ordained by God, it means that everything he says actually means what he means. And that's why, so many individuals, I think, who are following him. I don't think they're just voting for him. I think they're following him. I think they're worshiping him. I think he has created this cult-like, sort of thing around him. I mean, he beat Kamala in the popular vote. I mean, gee, Chris, what? It's mind-boggling to me. And then it just shows you that an adjudicated sexual abuser was more trusted than the Democratic Party, or do we have people who don't even believe what rationality is anymore, or is it a little bit of both? And I think that's the reason I'm running is what is it? I want, right? I think I do. But my God, I want to stand in front of somebody. If they ask me, if aliens ask me to run, then I know that we're screwed.
Well, I think the thing that really disappoints me more than the Marjorie Taylor Greenes and Lauren Boebert. In the Air Force, my first trial I ever did in 1984, my opponent was Lindsey Graham.
Oh,
and,
wow.
and then when I was the staff judge advocate at Columbus Air Force Base in Mississippi, one of my reservists was Roger Wicker. And I know that Lindsey Graham and Roger Wicker know better. I mean, they're not morons, they're not idiots, but they've made the calculation that it's in their interest to go along and get along rather than showing the moral courage you'd expect of, folks like them. And to me, that's just really disappointing.
Well, I guess winning is more important than America, Mo.
It seems to be to them.
And that's just a morality issue, Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, and that's the difference between Democrats and Republicans right now. The Republicans want to win. The Democrats just want to be right.
And I've been behind the door, David, with Republicans and Democrats. I'm going to tell you unequivocally, Republicans are so much tougher and don't care how they win. They're going to win. Democrats, I've never seen more backbiting, bickering, philosophical freaking whining. And
Yeah, well, look at J6, man. Again, an opportunity to point out all of the inequities in this country, the scum that perpetrated this fraud on America and invaded the Capitol. And the Democrats were in charge of messaging this, and look where it ended up, vis-a-vis what you've said earlier in this conversation. It went nowhere. It was the turd in the punch bowl that you were talking about.
yeah, and listen, there's just a lack of toughness, and there's a lack of. I get a call, Denver. Would you accept a conditional pardon from Joe Biden? And we could do another podcast on this, David and Mo. But I did the forensics on Hunter Biden's laptop and also his phones. So they said, Denver, would you take a conditional pardon? I said, no, I want a bar fight. There's no way I would accept a pardon. I don't know if I could turn one down, but I want a bar fight. Subpoena me, frickin' bring it. And I think that's what the Democrats absolutely lack. There's not a Democrat who said that. We have the lawyers out there who try to, self-gratify, right, by saying, I'm a hero on social media. Send money to me and I'll fight these Republicans. Yeah, okay. You're an attorney. That's great. What we need people to run. We need people who want to fight in a public square and go for votes that way. That's the fight. And to be on a debate stage, look at somebody and say, listen, you literally do have brain matter leaking out of your ear. That's how stupid you are. Because they do that to the Democrats. Trump just tells them exactly that they're pieces of crap. Or on the Joe Biden thing, I don't think you know what you're talking about. And I certainly don't, right? Something like that. Because he was talking gibberish and he just pointed it out. You're an idiot. And oh my God, so if they're willing to do that, why in the hell aren't the Dems willing? And it's because I just don't know if they have that ability to be that angry. I don't know.
Well, look, Mo and I tried to run campaigns like that and were rejected. I mean, we live in an area that has Buncombe County, which is, very liberal. And we both got chastised by the chair there for the way we're running our campaigns.
We weren't being nice.
Yeah, well, I tell you, you need to drag an axe to the Tea Party, right?
No, we'll bring a quinoa salad to the fight.
That's right. And you're bringing, they said, an old noodle to a gunfight, So that's where I'm at. Sorry, I'm pretty specific about that. The thing is, there's really good people in the Democratic Party who want to defend democratic institutions, but man, they're scared to death to really bang that drum and to go after people. And I think that's what needs to change on the Democratic side. The Republican side, they know how to win. They know how to mobilize. They know how to distract. They know how to utilize their social media system better than the Democrats can even imagine. Their media ecosystem is huge. It's a freaking sledgehammer. And the Dems don't even know what's going on behind their back. They don't even know the disinformation, the conspiracy theories that are undermining their votes, right? And that they're the tools of the Antichrist. So they're the ones that are deep state and globalists. And they're actually, harvesting adrenochrome from children in basements and then bullshit. So that's the stuff that I just don't think the Democrats understand is how specific the mission is for Republicans to win these races, and they're just tougher.
Denver, thank you so much for coming on the show with Mo and myself. You are a hero. I said this to you the first or second time we had a conversation. You're my kind of guy. Give them hell. Don't take shit from anybody. I am 100% in for Riggleman for Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. I'm going to help. If you decide to also want to plug your book one more time, The Breach, which is available at Amazon.com as well as on Audible. I highly recommend that book, The Breach. It's an inside story of the J6 committee, data and information behind that. Mo, why don't you give Denver our final question and then we'll say goodbye.
Well, listen, I tell you had me at bourbon. This is totally unrelated to politics, but aside from your own bourbon, what's your pick?
Oh my gosh. If it's a table bourbon, and you said, always makers at the beginning, but now it's a 4 rows of small batch with one big rock. If you're talking about a really good bourbon, if I'm going to go cask strength, I'm going to go Booker's. So, but there's some other great stuff like Calumet that a lot of people haven't heard of that's a really good bourbon. Then you get the little side bourbons like Johnny Drum and things like that. But I got to tell you, when it comes to like something where I'm just going to sit down and really have a nice, relaxed drink, it's going to be single barrel Wellers. So there you go, Mo.
All right. Give recommendation.
Denver, do me a favor and give us websites.
So www.sbdistillery.com, Denver 4VA on X, Denver, the number 4, and then VA. And on Blue Sky, you can find me at Denver Riggleman.
Awesome, Denver. Well, good luck in Virginia.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Mo.
This has been Muck You, hosted by Colonel Mo Davis and David B. Wheeler. Muck You is produced by American Muckrakers and copyright 2025. More information on American muckrakers is at AmericanMuckrakers.com.